Jagrata. One of the deepest of all spiritual discussions is that of doership. It really doesn't go any deeper than the contemplation of doership. You will find, when we're through, that if you read the Gita more carefully, you will see it as a treatise on doership. You will find that if you read the Tao, Lao Tzu's writings, little more hidden than the Gita, but right behind the words is a treatise on doership. Doership is a very, very, very deep topic. What does this mean, doership? It means that I challenge you to know that you do not know what you need to do and what will happen by itself. If you want to contemplate doership, you start right there. You have been alive so many years. You have learned so much. And I assure you that you do not know that which you need to do and that which will happen by itself. Let's look at that. I always start with the example that you grew up in a society that's starting generations, and I mean generations and generations ago, due to some meteor that dropped on the earth and created some dust cloud, so that for the whole society it was difficult to breathe for a long time, that it became ingrained within the culture that you must breathe. You must breathe. You must make the breath go in and out. How? Well, it's not hard. Try it. Pay attention. Come on, fill your lungs. And from the time you were born, it was taught to you by your parents that you must breathe. That you have to do this. It's one of the things you have to do. All right? You have to pay attention. You have to get these lungs going in and out. And obviously, anybody who knows anything about the human body knows that if you miss a few of these, it doesn't do well. It causes trouble. And if you miss enough of them, that the body cannot live without breathing. So therefore, this is a fairly serious task. This task of bringing the breath in and out. So this is an act of doership. You have been taught, and it is reasonable to assume that you must breathe. That you must make that air go in and out. All right? And if you do it well, you get rewarded. If you're really good at it, you're healthy. You do really well. So now you have both ends of the spectrum. You have the extreme that if you really do it well and always breathe well and get good fresh air filling your lungs, you get to be a healthy human being with more energy and more prana and more everything good. And that if you really don't do it for a prolonged period of time, you get to be sick and dead. So the doership is empirically checkable. It is absolutely there. You do it. Your brother does it. Your sister does it. Every single person has been trained to breathe. Not that far-fetched. I want you to forget what you now know and imagine you were born in that society. It's not that hard to see, is it? And then that started generations ago, and it's been happening, and everybody breathes. Okay? Everybody does it. Now, let's look at what interaction in that society looks like. All right? First of all, you understand that approximately half of your consciousness on a daily basis is involved in breathing. Seriously, it's not that easy. You have to go. If you're not really good at it, this is how your conversations go. Yesterday I went down and I saw my brother, And then I went over, you're getting trained, all right? You haven't really caught on too good at this, all right? You have to take that time and do that thing. But even if you're good at it and you manage to talk while you're breathing, then I will. Then you will have a problem in interacting with your daily interactions. It will take a significant amount of your consciousness to do this. That is doership. There. It's that simple. Now, no one is going to be able to convince you that you don't need to do this. You are going to do this. You don't know how to not do this. You think that not doing this is the part that makes you die. Please look at this. This is so deep. In other words, you only know doing and not doing. You only know breathing and not breathing. That is what is at the essence of Lao Tzu's teachings when he says, it is neither doing nor not doing. Because if somebody all of a sudden, who knows, for some reason, they take the risk or they somehow slip into some trance state and they forget to breathe. They're not there. They got too involved in something else. And they come back and they realize they didn't breathe. They didn't do it. But still the body's alive. And they feel healthy. And so they start to question, what happened during this time that I was in this trance and I was not paying attention to breathing? Surely it doesn't just happen by itself. So how did that happen? Did I manage to be like a fish, and live without breathing the air? And then they studied and they somehow stayed a little more conscious and a miracle happened. They noticed that the lungs went in and out by themselves. Without your awareness, without any need for you, the sentient, conscious, willful being, to do a single thing. What do you think? You think it's possible? You live in it every day, don't you? How many of you make sure you breathe? 0, 0. All right? Now you see the difference between doing, we describe that, not doing, breathing, not breathing, and that which is the essence of the Tao. That is, you get out of the way, and the natural forces of creation know how to do it, don't they? I could have just as easily done this with your heartbeat, couldn't I? Would have been even closer. That heart beats a lot. You all making that muscle constrict and relax? What happens if that little sucker stops doing that contraction and relaxation? You die even sooner than the breath. You can hold your breath, but you can't hold your heartbeat. So, basically, you have this deep, 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 deep teacher inside of you. Every bodily function is that way. You don't digest your food. You don't split your cells. There's all kinds of things that are going on that are near and dear to you, that if they don't happen, you die. Your heart and your lungs are the ones I like the best because you could theoretically make your chest contract and relax. You do have at least willful control over those muscles. And you could theoretically have been trained to do so, and now I'm telling you, you will not take the risk. Okay, you now have it all laid in front of you. It is absolutely laid in front of you. Now you see doing. Now you see not doing. And now you see surrender. That is what is called the middle path. That is what Lao Tzu was trying to teach you. That is what he meant when he said water flows downhill. The lungs will breathe by themselves. The heart will beat by itself. Won't it? How good are you at relationships, business, enjoying nature, anything you could do if you are the one who is making your breath go in and out and you are the one that is making your heart contract and relax, and then all of a sudden somebody shows up who's not doing that stuff. Gee, I wonder who's going to be better at it. There's no comparison, is there? That is what it means to interact with a more conscious being. He has infinite energy. He has infinite awareness. He actually sees things. He actually hears things. Why? Because he's not busy breathing and making his heart beat. You have released your consciousness. You have expanded your consciousness. Not by doing drugs, not by meditating, but by ceasing to tie your consciousness to that which doesn't need it. Therefore, it becomes yours again. That's what it means to not be the doer. It doesn't mean using your consciousness to do and then using your consciousness to not do. You see the difference? So it's so beautiful. We in the West only know duality, doing and not doing. The essence of the Eastern teachings is that which is in the middle, which is neither doing nor not doing. It all sounded so abstract. Now do you see it? It is neither breathing nor not breathing. It is the release of the consciousness from the act of either breathing or not breathing. You have liberated your awareness. And the same thing with the heartbeat. And the other example I used to use for you all the time was old Atlas. This guy thinks he has to hold the earth up. Why would he not? The thing weighs a lot. Somebody's got to hold it up. He's not just going to sit out there. He's not on a stand or anything. It takes some effort. Nothing else stands up by itself, does it? You can't take some big old rock, put it there. So Atlas is doing his thing. He's got broad shoulders. Atlas is supporting the entire world. He's making it so that you all live and don't fall down and smash your head and fall out of the universe. All right? He is holding that planet up. What is the probability that Atlas is going to believe that if he ducks down and releases his shoulders, that that entire ball of the entire Earth is just going to sit in outer space with no strings attached and nothing supporting it? I want you to have that little discussion with Atlas to convince him, oh, it's okay, Atlas, it'll stay up there. He doesn't believe you, is he? It isn't logical. It doesn't make any sense. He's never seen such a thing in his whole life, period. Everything needs to be supported. It's perfectly reasonable. You're crazy. You go away. All right? But the reality is you know that there are these invisible forces called gravity and centrifugal force that are sitting there balancing each other, and somehow with no strings and no support, that planet's going to stay out there, isn't it? And Atlas is wasting his time. He's not only wasting his time, but he thinks he's holding the Earth and he's making sure he walks it at exactly the right speed. He's following the thing. There's no way that he's really sitting there messing with it, believe me, because he could never hold it up. He has just got his head into the same place you got your head with your breathing and with the beating of your heart. You better get real good at constricting and relaxing that muscle, because if you get it wrong, you're going to die anyways. So you think you're doing it. You only think you're doing it. It's so beautiful. This is the essence of what the Masters teach. They talk about the dance between spirit and nature. And they talk about how when real great dancers dance, you can't tell who's leading and who's following. It isn't like someone's sitting there saying, go back, come forward. There's just this oneness. It looks like there's just this complete harmony of oneness, but it's not. Someone is actually leading that dance. Same thing in music. You sit there and put a group together, there is someone that is leading that energy. It may be the subtlest thing in the whole world, you hear me? Some impulse is happening first that is setting the beat, that is setting the changes. You can feel it in the room. It is coming from there. Sometimes it can merge, but there is someone in charge of that leaning. It's just a leaning. It's so subtle when great dancers dance. It is the same thing going on between Atlas and that Earth. He thinks he's leading. He's not. And if he ducked, you and I know it would stay up. And if you stopped the act of willfully breathing, you and I know that the breath would go in and out, and the same with the heart. So there's 3 examples that make no sense that they would go by themselves, but they do, don't they? But your mind would never accept this if it was not what you were used to. You would never be able to make that jump. How would you make that jump? Leap of faith, that's what we say, isn't it? How is it that Atlas is going to first time duck those shoulders? There's no basis. There's no logic. You can't do it through logic, can you? He has no empirical evidence that that planet will stay up there. You have no empirical evidence. In fact, you have every bit of empirical evidence that if you stop breathing, you will die. So your mind cannot help you. Your mind is actually hurting you. It is convincing you that this must be done. And you want to know what? The mind will always convince you it must be done. You will never, ever, ever convince your mind to surrender. Never. It is not logical. It's not logical for Atlas to duck, is it? But what would happen if he did? He might have a very different life. He's free to do something else. He's free to watch the earth spin. He was wasting his time, wasn't he? He was just wasting his time and carrying the burden of the whole earth on his shoulders, and we're all wasting our time doing these other things. So now I've given you 3 examples. Who said they were the only 3? Just because I happen to pick 3 that you all are done with, because you already did the leap of faith, you already noticed that your breath will go in by itself, didn't you? So it's no big deal. It doesn't seem very risky, does it? There's absolutely nothing. Let the stupid thing go by itself. You'd think somebody was a fool who wasn't doing that. Because you passed that stage. Who said those are the only 3? That's what I want to ask you. How do you know that everything isn't that way? You say, what do you mean? All the things you're busy doing. How do you know that you have to plot your career? How do you know that? How do you know that you have to decide where to go and when and how fast and how much you should be earning and at what point and who should be getting the raise first? How do you know that that is not equivalent to every one of these other things, and that if you placed your consciousness on something higher, that that thing would take care of itself? How do you know that you have to take care of your love relationships? How do you know? How do you know that you have to find the right person? How do you know that you have to make sure that you check it all out and do all this kind of stuff that we go through to make sure, because you only marry once, you only want to marry once. So you better make sure you got the right person. So how are you going to find the right person? Well, you better do all these different things we all do. I told you I once knew people who tried to figure out where they wanted to live based on what the population of male-female was and what was the average level of education of those people, and so on and so forth, because then maybe they could increase the probability that they would find the right person. That's doership, isn't it? Sounds funny if you listen to somebody else, because maybe they do more than you do, right? But you do, don't you? Right? You sit there and say, I'll find somebody. I'm looking all the time. Maybe if I go to this dance, or I go to this bar, or I go to this function, or I like music, so I'll go hang out around the music school, and you know what you do? And you go and you do all these things, and then it doesn't work, and you get hurt, and you get discouraged, and so on. Then all of a sudden you say, I'm not going to do that anymore. All right? I'm not going to have anything to do with anybody. Oh, here we go. Breathing, not breathing. It's so simple. It's so deep. It's so deep if you just remember these examples I gave you. The yogi experiments with this question. The yogi starts with where I started, which is I am looking at you and telling you, you do not yet know what you must do and what will happen by itself. Do you? How would you? You're just busy doing what you think you need to do. Have you ever challenged it? Have you ever been Atlas that ducked? Have you ever taken the serious risk of neither breathing nor not breathing? Do you want to know what? You wouldn't even know how. How like that? In other words, your whole fear system, every single thing inside of you, if you decided, okay, I'll neither breathe nor not breathe, and you were used to breathing all this time, and you were scared that you might die, you'd look at the guru and say, does not compute. You don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. You have to figure out techniques. Can you imagine meeting somebody who had been busy breathing their whole life, and now you sat down and you finally convinced them, look, I'm not breathing. They wouldn't believe you. Oh, I love this story. Oh, please, the example is so good. How do you prove to them that you're not in there breathing? There you are. It's moving. No, I'm not doing it. You're so. You're trying to trick me. How could you ever prove anybody that you're not doing it? You couldn't, could you? All right? You just got real good at it. You got so good at it that you could hide the fact that you're doing it, right? And I can't even see you stress any muscle except that heart's going in and out. Usually we have to stress a lot of muscles to make it happen, right? Boy, are you good at it. You're like a trickster. Never could you ever convince anybody that you are not using willful effort to make this happen. That is how subtle surrender is. It looks to anybody that you're doing it. Do you understand that? And if you sit there and you caught on that water flows downhill, because that is the essence of all of it. Water flows downhill, guys. You hear me? The leaves fall off in the fall. They come back in the spring. Which one of you are doing it? Which one of you makes water flow downhill? None of you. None of us. All right? Now, you're sitting there and all of a sudden the love of your life shows up. And it's the most perfect relationship that could ever be. And then you have a beautiful child relationship. But you're not doing anything. No one will believe you. They will sit there and say, you did it. You went out and found the perfect person. You decided when to have your child and planned all this out and did these things. Just look. All right? You can't prove non-doership. It's only for you. It's between you and God. How do you know that you're not in there doing it? Because you're free. You're completely free from the whole subject and object. There's nothing going on involved. You've liberated yourself. Now do you see what liberation is? Isn't it neat? You just get right down to real. There, simple, in a nutshell, there's liberation. Now do you see what ignorance is? Ignorance is thinking you need to breathe. Ignorance is thinking you need to make your heart beat. Ignorance is thinking you need to hold the earth up. Ignorance is thinking you have to find the perfect partner for the rest of your life. Ignorance is thinking you have to plot your career. Ignorance is thinking that you have to do any of it. Ignorance is thinking 800 billion things that you're busy making yourself neurotic about when the universe will unfold by itself. How? None of your business. Do you know that your breath will actually go faster when it needs to? It's none of your business. Your heart will go faster when it needs to. And it will slow down when it can. Who's doing that? How will I know when to? It's none of your business, is it? It's its business. I mean, that should make no sense to you. You should get very upset when I say that to you. You say, what do you mean it's its business? It's just a muscle. It's like I can't trust my life on it. All right? I mean, the things, I got to make sure it slows down every time it gets a chance, because I'll live longer. There's only so many beats it can do, all right? And I want to optimize them and maximize them. And plus which, if different stuff's going on, right, I need more blood. More blood. Come on. Get that stuff going. All right? No one would ever convince you to just leave it alone and pay no attention. It's such an important thing. I don't know how to get this through to you. Now I want you to look at what you worry about. I want you to look at how busy you are doing. The act of doing is what is making it look like you have to do. If I go in there as clumsy as I am, and I try to make my breath speed up when it's supposed to and slow down when I want it to and go in and out all the time, I'm not going to be very good at it. There's no way you're going to be as good at it as the autonomic functions that are taking place, is there? You react too late, and then you get your mind gets in the way, doesn't it? It sits there and thinks, well, I'm going to be running a day from now, so maybe I need to practice, because otherwise it'll be too sudden a thing. Next thing you know, you convince yourself to keep the thing going all night. I mean, if you let the mind get involved, it will definitely screw it up. Have you seen that? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that your mind can get in the way? I'm telling you, if it was your responsibility to breathe, you'd be dead. Even if the thing was capable of breathing by itself, you put yourself in there, you're in trouble. Aren't you? So therefore, you're seeing the essence of all spirituality right here. If you understand this, you now understand everything. You can read the Gita, you can read Lao Tzu, you can do everything, because that's what they're talking about. That's what the mindless state is. That's what surrender is. That's what non-doership is. That's what letting go and letting God is. Let go. What does it mean? Breathe, not breathe. No. Let go. Stop being the doer. Now, where we were a minute ago is I'm telling you, if you're busy breathing and the guru shows up and somehow manages to convince you, I don't know how, but manages to convince you that he's not breathing, that it's just happening by itself, and that you too can do this, how will he teach you to let the breath come in and out by itself? It sounds like it should be so easy, because it does go in and out by itself, doesn't it? You know that, right? I'm telling you, you won't be able to do it. Please, stay with me. You'll be scared. You'll be much too scared. It's subconscious, it's deep, it's ingrained. The minute it starts to go by itself, you'll jump on top of it. You'll sit there and it'll start, and you'll continue it. I think I saw it. It's like trying to teach somebody to fall asleep. How will you do that? There's no way. There's nothing. You're too involved. It will happen by itself. It doesn't need you at all. It will speed up when it's supposed to speed up. It will slow down when it's supposed to slow down. It will do everything absolutely perfectly. Just go on a vacation inside. Take lunch break. Do something. But get out of the way. And it will just breathe. And then eventually you'll catch on and you'll never ever have to do it again. That is what it is like to live in spirit. There's nothing to do. That is what Christ meant when he said, my burden is light. That is what is meant. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. Put your consciousness on a higher task, and all the rest will take care of itself. Because the truth of the matter is, it always would anyways. But you wouldn't let it. Everything. The grass is not busy growing. It just grows. And what you will find is that you are not helping your life. You are messing up your life. Now we get down to a deeper question as we asked it, which is, if I don't know the difference between what I have to do and what will happen by itself, what is there to do? The truly great ones, such as Lao Tzu, say nothing. Whoa, there's nothing for you to do. Nothing. The deep Zen teachings, teach that there is nothing for you to do. And anything that you are convincing yourself that you must do is neurosis. It's breathing. All right? Now, you sit there and feel, if you try to not do, you will feel such fear. If your boyfriend doesn't call on time or something like that, you'll feel all this doership you have to do. You better get control of the relationship. You better lay some stuff on his head. You better set this thing straight, all right? And it's all down there, and you sit there and you decide, I'm going to see what happens if I leave it alone. How long will you last? How long will you last that when he comes home you don't say something? This is your work. How do you get back to natural? How do you get back to letting God run the universe and you being the witness? You just being there with it, because you will find that it all unfolds in accordance to the Tao. That is what Lao Tzu meant by the word Tao. That which will happen when you're not there. And we already know that the earth will stay in orbit. Whoa, great realization. That the breath will go in and out, and it will speed up and slow down at the right time. That the heart will beat, won't it? We know that. And Lao Tzu is telling you that the woman or man of your life will be there when they are meant to be there, and they will not be when they are meant not to be. Who says? Who said the heart's doing the right thing? It's none of your business. You don't get to judge if your heart really needed to speed up right then or didn't. You don't know enough. It's not your business. Leave it alone. Leave your relationships alone. Leave your finances alone. Does it mean that I don't go to work? No. That's not doing. It's neither doing nor not doing. It is surrender. And I don't know how to get any more subtle than that. And the question I'm going to leave you with, because that's your challenge, that you don't know what you need to do and what will happen by itself. That's why there are masters. That's why there are those who went before you and experimented with this. Ooh, that's a pretty fun thing to experiment with, isn't it? And every single one of them said it all happens by itself. Every single one, including Christ. Definitely Buddha. And undoubtedly Lao Tzu. Isn't that beautiful? Now you have a handle on it, okay? Challenge yourself. Dare to liberate yourself. Find the way to let it be. Let it be. You'll be scared. That's that process of going from doing and non-doing into witness, into freedom. That's what witness means. You're no longer the doer. You see how it all ties together? It's all there. You're going to go through something to break the neurosis. Go through it. Test it. Live on the edge. Live right on the edge. That's why you have to live on the edge to grow spiritually. Do not try to be comfortable. Do not pull it back. Live right on the edge, constantly challenging. Am I right? Do I need to do this? Is it worth doing? What would happen if I left him alone to go through his little cycles, and then all of a sudden, as the years pass, you realize you're the one who ended up with the most beautiful relationship. Everybody else, with all their judgments and all their things and all the talk and all the stuff, they're gone. Somehow, by letting it all take its natural course, the highest happened. Maybe he's gone, and something deeper is there. Maybe he's there, and deeper is there. Surrender will always take you deeper, because you're giving it back to God, and there are no rules, and no one will go with you. It is something between you and God. It is between you and your willingness to experiment with the universe. Isn't it? Anything else would just slow you down. Be something great. Experiment with God. Experiment with the forces of life. Daring to let go. You serve what's in front of you because it's in front of you. You serve it with all your heart and soul for no reason at all other than it's what God put in front of you. And you constantly let go. And what will unfold without you is always higher than anything you could ever do. There's nothing deeper than this. If you're getting it now, if you see it because of that example we worked with, I'm telling you, just like you're breathing, just like your heartbeat, all of life is that way. Now go challenge it. Find your way to freedom. Jagrata.